Let's continue on a new series on my channel, What Not to Buy. And today we're gonna tackle Sezane. It would be the biggest understatement to say I'm a Sezane fan. I think that about 50% of my wardrobe is made up of Sezane, and they're one of those rare brands that I love for both the quality as well as the aesthetic. However, out of the hundreds of pieces I've tried, only a small amount of that has actually made it into my wardrobe. And then what's in my wardrobe, there are still things that have left me feeling a little bit underwhelmed. So today we're really gonna dive into those underwhelming pieces and the pieces that I've always put back or returned, and I'm gonna share with you why I don't recommend these items. I hope you find today's video helpful because I wanna share with you these things so you don't waste your hard-earned money on pieces that ultimately are not comfortable enough, they're not versatile enough for our everyday lives, and maybe they're just not as flattering as we initially wanted them to be. Keep in mind that just because something doesn't work out for me, my lifestyle, my body shape, doesn't mean it can't work out for you, but it never hurts to double check, so hopefully these are things you can consider. One of Sezane's most classic pieces is their Gaspard and Barry cardigans. This was actually one of my first purchases from Sezane, and I was completely obsessed with how light and airy and fluffy it felt. But to be honest, it's one of those items where I feel like it's not necessarily worth it to me because of how delicate it is and the upkeep required to keep its shape. When I wash this item, I am extremely careful to not wring the fabric, to not put any pressure or weight on it so I don't stretch it out. The neckline, because it's not particularly thick or reinforced, I'm just so careful with so it doesn't end up stretching out. Keep in mind that I am a knitter, I know how to properly wash and care for knitwear, and I know how important it is in the drying process to keep the knitwear kind of supported and in the shape that you ultimately want it to be in. I like to look for knitwear where it's not as stretchy or airy in the fabric because I find that these are easier to maintain. I also look for the neckline and make sure it's more reinforced, whether that's in thickness or whether that's, you know, in the type of stitching used. I make sure that this looks like it's going to hold its shape better than the Barry and Gaspard. The sweater I would recommend as an alternative would be something like the Sammy. It's got that slightly thicker neckline. I love that it's got these additional details on the sleeve, so it makes it feel more elevated. It's a lot more shaped through the body. It's a bit of a closer fit as well. I also love the rib pattern on it, and it just adds a really nice detail that maybe the Gaspard and Barry don't have. If you have any of the pieces I'm talking about today and your experience is similar to mine or different, let me know in the comments because I think it would be helpful for me to know for future reviews, but also to help out everyone else. I've got two Sezane sweaters here on my lap, and I want to talk about this one particular composition of sweater that I don't really recommend. It's the kid mohair wool polyamide elastane blend, and I find that when there's about 30% of this kid mohair, the sweater often ends up a little bit more scratchy than I'll like. So I don't think that this is a quality of kid mohair because I've had plenty of very soft mohairs, especially when I knit things myself. They can be really beautiful in quality. But the Sezane one used is just a little bit scratchier than I would like. If you have skin sensitivity, stay away from these because it's going to be an absolute nightmare. If you like the look of the kid mohair where it's a little bit fluffy with those brushed wool pieces, I would recommend the alpaca ones instead. For me, the alpaca sweaters are a bit nicer in quality. They are softer than the kid mohair, having tried quite a few styles in both of these compositions. My Emilio sweater here I find quite soft. I still wouldn't recommend it for those of you with wool sensitivity, but if not, these are pretty comfortable for me. If you're wondering about the best composition, to me it's the cotton sweaters as well as the merino sweaters. When it's a blend of cotton and merino, to me it's absolutely perfect. The Betty cardigan I'm wearing is 100% merino wool. I wash these all the time, I wear these all the time. They last extremely well and they're not at all scratchy. For example, I often just wear it on my bare skin. Alpaca and mohair often get a bad rep online because they can be scratchy. But the thing is they don't have to be, and when I'm knitting myself, they're often the materials I choose to work with. So in defense of these two fibers, I don't think it's the fiber's fault, it's more the specific one that Sezane has opted to use that is not really working out for me. I talked about this exact thing in my end of a stories video, but a while ago, Sezane put out this top, and it's made from merino wool, kid mohair, polyamide, and elastane. It's a little tube top, And yes, you're probably meant to wear it with the matching cardigan, but any kind of tube top or tank top, I don't think a mohair and a wool is going to be the right fabric. Let's ignore the fact that I think it could be very itchy. It's both too hot because of the fabric, but too cold because of the design. And it's one of those things where, unless I was going on like a little photo shoot, it would never work for my daily lifestyle. A practical thing to say is that with your wool pieces, they actually have some self-cleaning properties, so you don't have to wash them that often. But in the summer, when it's that hot and you're sweating that much in your wool pieces, you probably have to wash them a lot more than normal. This is where I can't be bothered to wash a wool piece all the time when it's next to skin in the summer. I don't particularly like this style because it's not bra friendly, but this one is made from 80% cotton. I have a short sleeve top in this fabric, and this one would work for spring summer, and it's a much better fabric choice to match the style of garment. The honest truth with Sezane is that most of the things I get, I like, and I think the quality is very consistent. The problem is really with the price, and sometimes the price is just way too high for the item. So this is going to be the next couple of pieces, and to be honest, this is the major issue I have with Sezane, where the item is really not bad. It's simply not worth the price point, and I know other places where I can get the same thing for less, or for the price, I can go for something better. So Sezane's t-shirts. Firstly, I would never even consider the most basic style because I know that Uniqlo makes great t-shirts and I'm kind of set there. But I am willing to splurge a little bit on a more elevated t-shirt style because they function more like a blouse for me as opposed to a t-shirt. Like everything in today's video, it really comes down to personal preferences, but I always find that the t-shirts, the neckline is not as defined as I want it to be. So I love a t-shirt where it's just a little bit, you know, thicker in the neckline, or it's just slightly reinforced. Whereas the Sezane t-shirts are very, very floppy in this area. The material used on this t-shirt, because I have ordered it in the past, is also a little bit thinner than I would like. I tend to like a light to medium weight t-shirt. I would say this was definitely on that lighter side, and I think I just wanted it to be a little bit thicker. These are smaller details where maybe I wouldn't be as fussed if it was a more affordable t-shirt, but because this is a very expensive one, these are all the details that I would definitely care about if I were to spend this much on the t-shirt. I will admit, I really like this clear t-shirt over the Hortense, just because you can see with the clear t-shirt, it's got these subtle pleats on the shoulder. It makes it feel more special. I love the pattern all over the top, as well as the lace detail. The fabric of the shirt looks a little bit thicker, and overall, it just looks like a nicer t-shirt than the Hortense that I have tried on. On the topic of things that are nice but overpriced, we have Sezane jewellery. Most of their jewellery pieces I really like, especially when I went to the store. It was just so beautifully displayed. The packaging is amazing. And when it's worn with the clothing, it just all looks really nice. But honestly, especially with their simple jewellery pieces, I would not recommend buying it from Sezane because I think it's very overpriced for it being gold-plated over brass. Especially for something like this Victorine necklace, for this price, you can definitely get it in gold vermeil, if not gold field, or even, you know, a very thin 9 to 10 carat solid gold. Because when you look at the chain, it's very dainty. We don't need a lot of gold here. And because of that, for this price point, you can get something much nicer in quality. I'm gonna share a few options here and link where you can look down below. So with daintier jewelry, because it's more lightweight, there's not that much gold needed. I would always just recommend saving on these a little bit more and purchasing something that will last. It's even worse with the bracelets and rings because these get a lot more contact with different things in your everyday life. So I would definitely stay away from bracelets and rings. My honest opinion on the jewelry pieces is that if you were to take away the packaging, take away the photography, take away the branding, and I was just to place it like on my table, I honestly don't think it would look much nicer than my local jewelry store that makes very affordable pieces. Another thing from Sezane that I like, but I don't think is the best value for money, are their smooth leather bags in maybe like a black, brown, or classic color. So with Sezane bags, they do a few styles that are very reminiscent of APC for me. And if I were to compare APC and Sezane leather, having owned both, I would say I prefer APC. And the thing about APC is that they also do a lot of sales. So I constantly see them on 30% off or 40% off sales. So you can get them for a lot cheaper than you can get a Sezane bag. When we're comparing a APC bag with a Sezane, I find that the smooth leather on the APC bags just feel a lot more durable and luxurious than the Sezane. I just find that the attention to detail and quality a little bit better on the APC bags. It's very hard to hold these up with one hand, but the green one I have from APC is their Grace bag. I think this is very similar to both the Sezane Milo and the Cloud bag that they do. So of these styles, I recommend the APC Grace, and I'll try to link to a few sales down below if you're interested in this. But I would say this is a much better option than Sezane. Now, in defense of Sezane bags though, for this Cloud bag, it's one of my most used bags ever because I'm obsessed with this croc embossed texture. The best Sezane pieces overall are the pieces that are just so beautifully aesthetically, and they combine it with pretty good quality. And I would say with these bags, it's no different. If I can find a color, style, and texture combination I love, I would prefer it over others because it's just so elevating for an outfit. But if it was just basic, then I would look elsewhere because there are other brands that just specialize in bags. They do it better, for example, APC. On that same thought, something else that I wouldn't recommend buying from Sezane are their shoes. So the thing here is that most of the shoes I've tried are good, but it's the same thing where for the price point, there are other brands that just do it better. The only shoe I had from Sezane that I would really recommend are these sandals, and I'll try to link these down below if you're interested in, having a look. But the reason I love this is because of the texture. I think that it makes any outfit so much more stylish. It's held up really well. I'm also going to be honest and say that it's probably because there's not that much that could go that wrong here because it's just a sandal. But if we're looking at a very simple shoe, for example, a flat or a Mary Jane or something like this, I would prefer buying this at a shoe brand. They're usually cheaper, they're usually a little bit more cushioned on the sole, just because they specialize in shoes. I find that the sole of Sezane shoes are never as cushioned or as supportive as I want them to be, so they are always more of a fashion shoe to me, as opposed to something that I will wear day in, day out. This is across their flats to their boots. I have tried a lot of styles. Ultimately with shoes, I really like the sandals, but mostly because of the aesthetic. Beyond that, I would recommend event shoes where you're not gonna wear them every day. Some of the styles are really beautiful, but I wouldn't recommend any of their everyday shoes because I think that other brands do it better. And if you're looking for a recommendation, I would go check out Bed. I've never once worked with Bed footwear. I talk about them way too much purely because I really like their shoes. Something I would not buy from Sezane are very large-scale prints. In Sezane's summer collections, they tend to do a lot of collaborations, and they also do a lot of prints with very large florals or large patterns. I have this little rule in my wardrobe where the more statement something is, the more I need to love it. And it's on the basis that statement pieces are harder to style, and if I don't 100% love every detail, I'm just not going to wear it. Whereas if it's statement and I love all the details, I'm always going to find ways to wear it more. This is really the thing that determines whether a statement piece gets worn a lot or whether I'm going to wear it a few times and then it kind of goes to the back of my wardrobe. For example, this Rena dress, it's very pretty. I love the print, I love the color, but if I'm going to be honest, I don't love it that much. And because of that, I know I'm not going to get that much wear from it once I have it in my wardrobe. As someone petite, I genuinely find a lot of very wearable pieces from Sezane. I think a lot of their pieces are petite friendly, but something that isn't petite friendly are large prints. They can feel very overwhelming, and you definitely look at the print more than me. And I generally think clothing should complement us and work with us as opposed to being the sole focus of a look. If you're trying a print on and you're deciding whether to keep it, really take a step back and think about whether you see the print first or you see you first. Because some people suit large scale prints and it will not overwhelm them. Whereas others, you might find a large scale print just taking away too much attention. And I definitely feel that way on my frame and maybe just on my features as well. Because of that, I really like my short pippa dress with that smaller floral. I often get my skirts in these daintier florals, and while it's not as exciting on the website, it's so much more versatile in my wardrobe. The biggest thing not to buy Sezane if you're petite are their trousers. So I've almost given up trying their trousers because they never seem to work out for me. I find most of their styles, either they're not high enough in the waist for my preferences, or they're just too overwhelming through the leg and the general shape. As a petite girl, sometimes I feel like I can handle a slightly more oversized shape if it's high rise, and then I can also do a slightly more mid-rise pant if it's slightly more tapered or slightly slimmer or straight leg. But when you combine the oversized shape of the leg with a mid-rise or low-rise, that's when it truly becomes very hard to pull off as someone petite. It doesn't help that with Sezane trousers, they come very long. Very long. So it's very hard for me to imagine, even if I were to pin it up, how the trouser will look, because I can't visualize the way it ends and the way it will drape. One of my favorites would be this Emilio trouser. I like it, but it is still a little bit more structured than my perfect pair would be. So this one is more of a seasonal item for autumn winter. But for an everyday, drapey pants, I've yet to come across any that I really love from Sezane. If you're petite or around average height and you've had luck with a certain style of trouser, do let me know in the comments. I would love to try them, but I've tried a lot and so far, no luck. I want to make a disclaimer also because you guys leave me with the nicest messages where you say, actually those trousers don't look so bad on you. They're actually quite nice, which is very kind. But my issue is not when I pair the trousers with like a tank top or a lightweight top. My issue is when I wear it in the transitional season with a sweater or a coat. It's really here where I feel like the trousers are too overwhelming. And I just need a trouser that will not only look good with a cami or a fitted top, but also look good with my jackets and my coats, because that's truly when I wear pants in those in-between seasons. I have so much to say about Sezane, but the final thing that I would not buy from Sezane are some of their shirts. So I want to make a distinction between the Piero and the Anne shirts versus their Max. The Max shirt is their oversized shirt. It's much longer, much boxier in the shape. Whereas the Piero and the Anne, these shirts, they have a very small collar. They're a little bit fitted, so I always size up for these. They're a little bit shorter, and in general, just a bit more classic and feminine. Depending on your personal style, there's definitely one that is more suited than the other. For me, the Anne and the Piero are a lot nicer to wear, and then the Max is just a little bit too much on my frame. If you tend to get along for oversized shirts, I think the Max is that classic fit. But if you tend to feel a bit overwhelmed in them, then I would stay away from the Max because it's really quite dramatic of an oversized shirt. For myself, I will not be buying any more of the Max shirts because I do find them too overwhelming, and I do think that there are better oversized shirts that still manage to feel a little bit more balanced on. That was my what not to buy at Sezane video. If you'd like to know what I actually like, stay tuned because I will have more spring and summer review videos coming very soon. You can also look at my many past Sezane videos where I do very in-depth reviews. Let me know your favorite and least favorite piece from Sezane down below, and I'd love to compare. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.